Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Rulebook Read Along. Today, continuing our series on Barbarians of the Ruined Earth, I thought I would take a look at an adventure that was given to me by Mike Evans, who was happy enough to send me the rules when I asked for them. It is called The Slave Minds of Vindicus the Terrible. I don't have any particular show notes or programming notes. So let's hop right in. Hey, Bob Mosdell. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Thanks so much. Let me pop that on screen. Before I get into the rules, I will read the back of the module. Oh, and as before, it's a really nice book. I mentioned this in the streams about the rulebook. Same kind of layout. Nice glossy cover. Really well laid out, as we will see. Nice paper, nice art, all that good stuff. The back of the book says, inspired by Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and the exciting action of Saturday morning cartoons, Slave Minds of Vindicus the Terrible is a level 0 or origin story for your group's adventures in Barbarians of the Ruined Earth. Each player controls 4 children characters escaping the dangerous slave minds of the vile sorcerer. To gain their freedom, the characters must pit their cunning, whatever equipment they can find, and their talents against the waves of robots, hideous monsters, and a vile overseer. This adventure contains 30 full-color illustrations by many of the same awesome artists from the Barbarians of the Ruined Earth rulebook, and some new artists as well, 10 new enemies to pit your players against in future games, and rules for swarm creatures. Hey, War Bunny, Happy New Year. Awesome. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. So there we have it. I would have said a few years ago that I'm not sure if I would how Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom would be as a reference, because it's by far the weakest of the Indiana Jones movies, but then they made that Indiana Jones 4, whichever it's called, which has now made Temple of Doom the second weakest of the Indiana Jones movies. You can see by the cover art, they've got, looks like a mine cart, but maybe it's like some kind of carnival roller coaster cart there going. We'll have to see. Hopefully they could pick some good lessons out of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and not some of the stuff that has aged very poorly. Now, nothing says, is it a character funnel or do you normally play multiple PCs? I believe this is a funnel. Nothing in the main rules suggested you're playing more than one PC. So I imagine, unfortunately, some of our child heroes aren't going to make it through. Hostel says, Indiana Jones jumping the shark in a fridge. Yeah, pretty much. That was bad. Frederick Warwick, revolution, overthrow the masters, freedom. Could be. Let's get inside this bad boy. Also, this is also by Mike Evans, who wrote the Barbarians of Ruined Earth main rulebook. I'll read the preface in this case. I didn't for the main rulebook, but I'll read it here. The Slave Minds of Vindicus the Terrible takes its inspiration from the 1980s and early 1990s Saturday morning cartoons with a splash of the mind scenes in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It is meant to be over-the-top, cheesy, action-packed, and fun. Well, hopefully. In this adventure, the players each take on the roles of 4 children that have been captured by the agents of the cruel sorcerer Vindicus and have been forced to toil tirelessly in the mines below his fortress. The adventure begins when heroes unknown raid Vindicus's fortress and inadvertently set free the captives held in the mines. Chaos ensues, and the players must use their cunning to survive and make it out of the mines to freedom. As the player characters are inexperienced children or young teens, they will most likely not win in a straight fight against the robots that guard the corridors of the mines. Maybe they'll get lucky against 1 or 2, but take heavy casualties in the process. The group will need to hide, plan, scheme, run, climb, and use the environment to sneak past the guards and get out of the dungeon. This adventure, mechanically and thematically, is inspired by the character funnel from Dungeon Crawl Classics by Goodman Games. If you're familiar with DCC, you'll feel right at home here. If not, totally okay. It's super easy and fun. The players each control the actions of 4 level 0 PCs, with most of the rules outlined in Barbarians of the Ruined Earth, pages 5 to 20. Functioning normally with only a few exceptions, which will be explained below. During combat on their initiatives, the players can choose to have any number of their PCs act, taking a movement and action each. When a PC is reduced to 0 hit points, there is no rolling on the out of action table. They are immediately removed from play. aside, seriously, I highly recommend scoping out Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's fun as hell, and it's awesome. Level 0 Funnels, Sailor on the Starless Sea by Harley Stroh is a perfect place to start. You can find these books on Drive-Thru or Goodman Games. Wow, so that's a nice plug for Dungeon Crawl Classics from Mr. Evans. So there we go. This is definitely a funnel, borrowing from DCC. So we got table of contents. We have some important rules. The adventure start, baddies, a new monster rule, finally escaped, and then Sorcerer TV. Is that like Liquid TV? So here we get some important rules. I think this is, presumably this is to match up with the funnel and the fact that you're playing as kids. 0 HP. While in normal Barbarians of the Ruined Earth adventures, PCs that are reduced to 0 HP are unconscious and roll out on the out of action table. This adventure does not utilize that mechanic. Instead of rolling, when a PC falls to 0 hit points, the GM is encouraged to think of exciting actions by enemies that recapture the character. A robo-drone flies from the darkness, encasing the child in an energy net and hauling them off back to the pens. Or the character is woozy, injured, and unable to keep up, and the clanking of metal feet are heard echoing through the mines. The other PCs must decide. Do they stay and fight or leave their comrade to their fate? So basically, I think they're cognizant of the fact that we're playing child characters, and people may be uncomfortable if you're just splattering these things, these kid characters to bits. So you're encouraged to think about it, and I think also, right, thematically, we're talking about goofy cartoons. So instead of just, okay, this robot just uses its, chainsaw arm and just slices this poor 9-year-old in twain, they launch an electronet, start dragging the character behind, and then it makes an interesting decision. Do you then try to rescue that person, or do you let them be taken back? So I think it works both ways. I think it works to help lighten things a little bit. It's probably good to have that if you're going to use this part of your session 0. Talk it up. Make sure people know, hey, we're playing as kids. If people are sensitive to that, maybe we can adjust the ages of the kids, or we could use adults. It doesn't have to be kids, but it again, thematically for what this adventure is trying to do, it kind of matches up. But hey, if you're not comfortable with that, here are some things we can do. This adventure is not meant to be a grisly splatterfest of child blood and guts, although a group is free to do whatever they desire. The original design of this adventure only has a few places outlined where a PC dies when they are reduced to 0 HP. Most other instances fall under the recaptured category mentioned above. Note, know your group. If people are uncomfortable playing child slaves in this game, then have all the characters start as late teens, early 20s, or whatever. If your group decides to start the characters at an older age, it does not affect any mechanic in this adventure. It's just thematic. Yep. Pretty much exactly what I said. Now, Nothing says, I like that you're playing the NPCs in the background of an adventure where the heroes are defeating the bad guys. You were just trying to get out. Yeah, it's a cool twist. It's right. It's kind of like if you were that sort of Star Trek Below Decks, which I haven't watched, but I think that's also a similar concept of you're not the officers doing things. You are the folks who are just working in the bowels while important stuff is going on, or you're acting as kind of some red shirts, or in this case, you can imagine that in other adventures, you would be the party who frees some prisoners and just says, get out, find your way out. And then you go off and do your business. In this case, you're taking on those prisoners of, okay, we just got out. Well, what do we do? And one of the other things I think is an interesting decision, or not interesting, I guess I like it, is that being kids, yes, you have to worry about, okay, are people comfortable with the violence, that part, but it really encourages and reinforces this concept of figuring out other ways to get around stuff, because you are not equipped to take on a lot of these things head on. And it says as much in the preface, though. Players, you might not read the preface. You probably won't. DMs might read it. Players won't. But if I know I'm coming into and, hey, you're an 11-year-old, I'm naturally not going to start bowing up and trying to take out robots one-on-one, because I'm an 11-year-old. Just part of my natural role-playing process is going to be, well, what would I do as an 11-year-old? I would run, flee, hide. If I have to take it out, I'm going to try to Home Alone this thing. I'm not going to just try to run up with a baseball bat and beat it to death. So it encourages, just by making you kids, it encourages you to try to come to the kind of decisions that I hope in a lot of OSR games, we want our players to take, which is figure out as much as possible how to do stuff without combat, because combat is deadly and can go really badly for you. So if you can avoid it, avoid it. In this case, being that your kids kind of puts you in that spot already of, yeah, I definitely want to avoid combat. Character creation. This adventure does not follow the standard rules for character creation outlined in Barbarians of the Ruined Earth. Since many of these characters will be quote-unquote recaptured and hauled away, since they are soft and squishy, we don't need to get bogged down with rolling 3d6 for 6 stats for each character. Instead, each character relies on kids' luck. When performing an action or making a test, the players roll a d20. A result of 1 to 10 is a success, where 11 to 20 is a failure. When a character is attacking creatures that are larger than them, which is pretty much everything, each monster indicates if it's larger than the child for ease. They suffer disadvantage to their rolls. Characters do not suffer disadvantage when defending against attacks. Since the characters are small, they are children after all, they make tests to hide from opponents with advantage. So we're not going to go with stats in this case. That's something you could probably, when your kid comes out of this funnel and becomes a true adventurer, then you can roll your stats. And this is nice. It's simple. You're just going to have a d20. You basically have a 50% chance, maybe slightly less. I think it's actually slightly less, because I want to say that on a d20, right? Half is 10.5. So I guess it's 50%. I was thinking for a minute there, I was thinking it was 3d6. So yeah, 50% more or less to succeed. You're going to want to try to avoid disadvantage, which means, you were reinforcing the fact that you're going to want to avoid pretty much attacking anything if you can, because you're disadvantaged by that. But if you're doing something and something tries to attack you, you don't get disadvantage on that, which is nice. And then if you want to hide, you get advantage, which of course is going to encourage you to hide. So, the DM comes into the game and says, okay, you're going to have this kid's luck. Hey, you have disadvantage when you're attacking just about anything, but you have advantage to hide. Okay, me as a player, again, reinforcing what I think the module and what me as the GM want to do is going to be like, okay, I'm going to try to hide everywhere I can, because if I have to roll dice, I want to roll with advantage. I don't want to attack that robot if I can all help it, because I have disadvantage. So good stuff yet again. Bob Motzel says, seems like they haven't seen the destructive potential of, say, 11-year-old's birthday party. No, indeed, and they clearly haven't watched Home Alone. Home Alone was clearly not one of their references, but we'll get into it. Maybe they'll give of course, in games like this, maybe we'll see that they will have this sort of stuff in the environment that you could set up some traps, set up some, whatever goofy Goonie, right? Because the kid who was Short Round and Indiana Jones was also Data. I mean, it's kind of a really poorly both of them stereotypical characters, but they did have those inventions. You couldn't kind of invention it up, maybe. I mean, certainly I would want to, as a player, I'd be wanting to get everything I could, every advantage I could, because if I just have to attack them, I'm disadvantaged. So I don't want that. Starting hit points. Each PC has 4 hit points. This reflects the +4 for starting hit points of each class. At the end of this adventure, the player will decide which of their surviving characters to increase to first level. They only roll the hit die associated with the class or race's class and do not add a further +4. And we can see more about that at the end. The characters that the player does not choose become NPCs that may stay with the group or go off on their own. I mean, and the other nice thing too, right, is if these characters stay with you, you've kind of automatically, or you've automatically got some contacts going on. Those, if you then fast forward a few years where these characters finish growing up and becoming first level adventurers, maybe these NPCs spread out, and then you kind of have some contacts. Maybe so-and-so has gone over here, and now you know somebody there because that was another one of your surviving characters from your funnel. Or if you need an adventure hook, hey, you remember so-and-so who you were in the Vindicus's slave mines with? Well, they are now over here in not New Vegas, and they need your help. Or they have a job for you, or they've been kidnapped, or, whatever. So it's useful in multiple ways. Character race. The players roll 1d12 for each PC to determine their race, or just use human if that's all the player wants. And you can, get human, beastman, Vec, possibly a sorcerer, but could also be a really ugly kid. Player's choice if escape. I like that. Are you a sorcerer, or are you just ugly? And then if the PC is a beastman, you're going to roll for some stuff below, mark of the beast, and the species name. Weird that they don't put these in tables. I guess they just wanted to save space with these dice. So if you're a beast man, you roll for the mark of the beast, and we have a bunch of beast names, and then or the types, what animal type, and then a species name. Weapon damage, unless specified in an item's description, all PCs deal 1d4 damage with a weapon or 1 point with an improvised weapon or fist. We have a note about reading this adventure, which I'm going to skip, but it looks like white boxes are descriptions that are immediately apparent without any digging or looking. Gray boxes are for events or Sorcerer TV. And these events usually occur after the text in the white boxes has been described, and then yellow boxes require the group to actively look around. Orange boxes are hidden things. Okay, cool. So they have, I also would probably have liked this in some kind of table just to make it easier, but to read, because it's kind of easy to miss. But they've color-coded things. White boxes are the stuff that you walk into a space, boom, that stuff's immediately available. You're just going to, pretty much, that'd be analogous, I would assume, to your boxed text descriptions, even if they don't give us exact descriptions to read out. All the stuff that's in the white boxes is stuff that, yeah, you get that information. If it's something in a gray box and it's an event that we would then talk about after we finish describing the stuff that's immediately apparent. Yellow boxes are those things that we would have to do searching or do something to figure out. Oh, if they open the drawer in the desk, then they'll get stuff that's in that yellow box. Excuse me. It's not actively hidden, but it's not apparent. And then orange boxes are for stuff that is actively hidden. Good stuff. I really like their layout. It's just nice and clean and clear. So this sounds like a good deal. And we're getting one part of the map and then the other part of the map. I'm just going to left click it again. Actually, maybe the other side is where. Well, actually, no. It seems like I'm guessing if these things are numbered according to basically when you'll encounter them. We're starting up at the top. Would that be top left? Excuse me, top left, which has the cells that presumably we escape out of at some point. I'm guessing that the illustrations that are inside these spaces pertain to kind of what's in there. So I'll be really interested in number 7, which looks like it has something out of one of those Miyazaki films where it's got kind of weird sort of lizard body, but with a kid face. And there's some kind of robot in the next area, and we got some more robots and things. And we definitely have a couple of minecart areas. Ooh, somebody with a whip. And then we've got some, looks like 23 is maybe the way out, or 20. Maybe a couple of exits, we'll have to see. Nicely done. Pretty informative. At least, one thing I definitely appreciate is it's descriptive, and the illustrations are descriptive, but they're also clear. We're not, it's one of those things I guess I go on about maybe a little bit. I love great art, but ultimately I need to be able to use this at the table more than just look at it and go, ooh, great art. And this dungeon is really nice. Thematically, it matches up. It has kind of a childlike, naive quality to the art. But I can see plainly all the room numbers. I remember there was one we looked at. I forget if it was one of the ones we did looking at the one-page dungeons or something else, where there was at least one spot where I couldn't make out what the number is. I had to really zoom in on the PDF to try to verify, okay, this is the number, and then cross-reference it with the different text entries to say, okay, I think this fits. It's just kind of needlessly done where you could just make it clear. But I think they were trying to be very artistic, and that's great. But when I can't read the number and it makes confusion, that doesn't help. This one, I'm guessing that all these illustrations give me a heads up as to what's in these areas, but not at the expense of kind of understanding those areas. I've got some kind of grid that's can help tell me how big these rooms are. I don't think they've given me it doesn't look like they don't say the size of the grid, but I would probably just maybe 5 foot. I'm guessing 5, I don't know, could be 10 feet. Not sure on that. That might be the one thing. If I had to say, oops, maybe I would have liked to know what the scale is. But really, really well done. Pretty, but still readable. I don't know why my mouth is dry today, so apologies for the frequent drink breaks thus far. We get to the adventure start. The adventure begins with the PC stuck in their cages, 1A, exhausted after a grueling day in the mines. These characters have seen only this area of the mine. They were carted in at rapid speed and thrown into the cells shortly after they began delving into a new area of the mine. 1C. The crackle and hum of cheap halogen light bulbs fill the room, making it harder for all to fall asleep. The lights flicker on and off. The cage is open. Emergency power comes on, restoring lights to the room. So I'm guessing this is the white box stuff. So really, it's not really in the white. I guess it's in the white. It is in the white box, given that this entire, that's the main page center content area is in a white box. I think I was expecting maybe more a different thing, something to differentiate it. I do appreciate that they've given us bullet points and things. Each bullet point is something, part of the experience of being in that place that we can communicate. But it's not just your box text that read this text now. It's not that. We take these. We as a DM, we kind of read through them all, presumably, or you could read them one by one, and then we can. As we then narrate to the party, we can decide how we want to take these elements of the atmosphere and render them. The only one that has more or less stuff that maybe we want to say for sure is we have the large television screen that flickers on and has Vindicus the Terrible. That's then going to tell us, there are intruders in my fortress. They have come for the battle staff of disruption. Robo warriors to my compound. Defend your master! Robo-Guardians, defend the staff! Robo-Drones, stay in the mines! Prevent the slaves from escaping! That's my Vindicus. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that very often. That might have been it. That might have been it for me. Gosh, I noticed in the chat that Terrence, a.k.a. Roman, has been chatting, and I can't see him. Terrence, I can't see your chat stuff. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it. So apologies. I don't know what's going on. For some reason, I'm not seeing your chat stuff. I may have to figure out on YouTube if I accidentally hit something, but I'm glad you're here and in the chat. Sorry for not responding to anything witty that you've been putting in, but for some reason, it is hidden from me. Ian, a.k.a. Lincoln. Hey, Lincoln says, minecart rhino on that map, best adventure ever. Yeah, gotta love minecart rhinos. Yes, Brian Smith says, summon Nightbot to answer for this. Indeed. Indeed. Terrence is a friend of the channel. What have you done, Nightbot? But obviously you guys can see him, so really it is just me. I'm not certain. Hopefully it's temporary. But I might have to go into the bowels of Nightbot. Indeed. So lights are flickering on and off. The halogen light bulbs are crackling and humming. We've been told, right? Boom. I don't even really call it a call to adventure, but I suppose it is that, hey, we're trapped, but adventurers are here, and they're not here for us. They're here clearly for something called the Battle Staff of Disruption, but we have a chance, right? This might be the disruption, the distraction that we've been waiting for. Alarms are blaring. Of the slave cages, we've got their filthy caves, rickety bunk bed frames, jail doors slightly ajar. Oh, I forgot. The cage is open. Okay, that was the other part. So whatever's happened, the disruption has caused the cages to open up, and we have our chance to escape. We do get a supply closet. Here we have our first yellow text, which I think is where we just need to kind of open the... This is yellow. It's stuff that we have to kind of do some kind of searching. There's some small pickaxes, small shovels, a hard hat with a flashlight, 25 feet of rope, some rations, and a water skin. And the flashlight gives us 15 feet away of light. If the lights go out, they could be turned on, but while in use, it's impossible to stealth or remain hidden. Right, so... Hey, Don Rossavelli, welcome. See, look at that. So I can't see poor Terrence in the chat, and yet Putnam Bennett gets in with some spam. How does this happen? How does this happen to me? Fresh delve area. I think I'm not going to go through all of these. I feel like I'd do it. I'm more interested in the main parts than just reading up on line by line everything in these rooms. You'll pass through the, and I should probably, this is one of those things where it's always tricky doing these on a stream because I can't reference the map and I don't have the setup. I need to figure out how I can do this where I could get the map up and talk about it so it's a little bit easier to see, because as sometimes happens with these things, you have multiple paths and the numbering follows some of the paths, or sometimes it'll kind of swing around. So essentially, I have it from the heart. I guess this is where having the actual book in front of me is good, because I can have the PDF on the descriptions, or maybe I should do the other way around. Maybe I should go back to the, I'll keep it on the descriptions. So 1C, I don't see where 1C is, actually. I see 1A, 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 1B. That's that closet area. I actually don't see 1C on the map. I do not. That might be, well, I mean, it's only a slight issue. I just don't know where it is. Because according to the map, I'm supposed to go back to the map briefly. So here's 1A, 1A, 1A. We have 1B, which I believe that's supply closet. I do not see 1C. And the only path from the one area goes down to 2. Oops. And then we don't have anything over here. So that might be a slight oopsie. There is no 1C. My thought would be that 1C, oh boy, 1C should probably be up here somewhere. Maybe even it would be maybe at this end. I don't know. Brian Smith says, do you need a secret decoder ring? I might. Maybe even a not so secret decoder ring. It's just kind of weird. Oh, there's 1C. Nope, there is no 1C. Somebody finds it, let me know. I don't see it. It's not super important because there's not really anywhere to go. It's just basically, here's where you've been digging, or here's where you've been brought in to dig. So it's not going to have any exits or anything that way. So you could have actually done maybe without it, kind of. But it's supposed to be there, and it's not there. The only exit from your cells, and presumably this new area of the mine that just got started, is down to Area 2, which is a mining cavern. I like the Sorcerer TV we're getting, where I guess we have to go to another channel to see it, but presumably you can enter these rooms, and these screens will keep showing updates. I'm guessing updates of what's happening, so that'd be kind of fun. The cartographer just said, F it. Yeah, you don't need no 1C. Yeah, probably. There is a miner bot in here drilling into the wall. There's a pile of rocks, which you might find some stuff. Ooh, bones of a dead slave. Ooh, that's not fun. There's an archway south that leads to Area 6, which I see. Oh, the archway. Ooh, it's trapped. It's trapped with electric beams. Each character must pass a test to avoid being electrocuted. Failure means 1d6 damage and unable to pass through, but can attempt again. Going this way is dangerous, but allows the PCs to bypass 2 mining bots in Area 5. Right, so from this Area 2, there's actually 3 different exits. 4, including the way you came from. 1 going west takes you to that Area 5, which apparently has 2 mining bots in it. There's another one to the east that goes to Area 3. And then there's the archway south that goes into Area 6. Area 6 looks like it's got some busy stuff in it too, so I'm not sure why one would want to go. Looking at the map, it's got another bot and then some kind of other person in there. So, I don't know. Area 3, though, is empty, but then leads to some, like a little mushroom cave. So maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. But we do have lasers, which is good. We'll have to look at page 32 when we get there to see if mining bots are really nasty. Are they easy to sneak by or what? But you could probably try to at least hide behind that pile of rocks. And you could possibly get a ray gun with an energy pack. That's not a bad thing to have. So yeah, area 3, which is to the east. Circular room, most of the room's been delved out. Oh, I noticed too, I didn't even think about it until I saw this text. We're not doing random encounters, or we're not doing wandering monster checks. They're going to tell us, which they do here. So you come to this room, you just roll for an event when they come in. I mean, that's fine. It kind of simulates sort of your turns. The only thing that, I don't even know if it's an issue or not, but is it something that every time they come in, you'd roll? So that they go in area 3, then maybe they go in area 4, which has the mushrooms, and they backtrack to area 3 for some reason. Does that mean you roll again? That's where it might be nice to have a note saying, oh yeah, if it says roll for an event, roll only the first time they enter the room, or if it is roll every time, or maybe say in here, every time the PCs enter the room, roll an event. Might just be handy to know, because are we supposed to be, it gives us an idea of how busy this area is supposed to be, because otherwise it's basically empty. The path east, which goes to the mushroom chamber, has actually been blocked up with stones. But maybe they could unblock them if they wanted to. Of course, you might be thinking, why is it blocked up? Maybe we should leave it alone. You can go into area 4 by removing the stones. It takes 1d3 plus 1 rounds. Each round, you're going to roll for a possible random encounter. 1 in 6 chance. If a 1 is rolled, 1d2 minor bots appear. That's interesting too, because we actually have 2 separate things. We have these events, and we have a random encounter. But basically, we haven't been given just a global random encounter check system. Maybe what it is when they're undertaking these activities that take multiple rounds, that's when your random encounter thing is engaged. Or it might just be on a case-by-case basis. It's definitely an interesting way of doing things. In this case, when you enter the room, you have an event, and we can roll to see if every one of them. We'll have to go look at, when we get to that page on events, we can see if everything is, once you roll, you're guaranteed some event, or if there's a chance you could get nothing. And then, of course, if you start spending time trying to remove the rocks, then you get a chance of those random encounters. Under the rocks again, we can find stuff. Flashlight, healing salve, rations, a water skin. Boy, people are just burying stuff all over these mines. Continuing east into the mushroom room now. There's some ripe mushrooms that can be picked. Oh, they're good mushrooms. They heal you. Oh, no. They will heal you, but you have to succeed on a constitution test or become sickened and suffer disadvantage for 1d4 hours. Yoish. That's a little bit rough. It's a long time, 1d4 hours. I guess the tunnel leading south and west. Okay. So the reason I'm kind of sitting here a little bit, not confused, but here's something where it would be nice if they just wrote it out. So it says that there are tunnels leading south and west. Then in the category of things you need to interact with, it says gaining entry to the south, and it has another thing about stones being removed. But it doesn't say that the tunnel's blocked, and the map does not show anything being blocked. So it's one of those nice things that either on the map show me that there's these blockages so that when I'm referencing it, I know I can quickly look at it, or in that white text, tell me, hey, tunnels leading south, in parentheses, area 7, maybe comma, blocked up with rocks, and west, if the west one is clear. And then we could just have something that, hey, we could have a global blocked with rocks thing, and then it could just be like in the other room, okay, when you want to unblock things with rocks, and maybe you could block things up with rocks, it takes X amount of time, X amount of chance of random encounters, blah, blah, blah. Because that would be an interesting idea if you could also block up this stuff, at least slow down pursuit, maybe even confuse them if they think, oh, did we block this off? And then they go, and then leave. Or you enter the mushroom room and you want to block it up behind you, kind of thing. One of the mushrooms is actually a mushroom parasite and will attack the moment someone touches the mushrooms. Ooh, so you got a little mushroom parasite fight. And we do have a hidden passage, which is kind of marked. Wait, is it kind of marked? The one that leads to area 19. Yeah, it is. So it's marked on the map by just being a solid line with the in front of tunnel. Just give me the S. Give me the S, because then I just know from all my looking at maps. Okay, S must be a secret thing, and not. Oh, why is it? Is it just a is it another cartographical error that they didn't erase the bit of line there, or what? So that would be one thing. Just make it an S, and maybe put a rock symbol or a little rock thing to show me that what's blocked and what's not blocked. So the hidden passage leads to area 19, which has a whole bunch of stuff going on in it. And we have some notes about it. So if they do discover this hidden passage, it does allow the group to bypass many of the dangers. The passage is a mess, and much of the ceiling is given way. It's extremely dangerous and will take 3 rounds to get through. Have one character make a luck roll each round. Failure means the tunnel begins collapsing. On a D3, I guess each time someone fails, whether it's collapsing behind you, in front of you, or in the middle. Those in the area where stones are falling suffer 1d6 damage from falling rocks and must pass the test or become buried, suffering 1d4 damage. So I do like this in theory, that you have a passage that, yeah, if you go from this area 4 to 19, you are bypassing a lot of stuff. In fact, if you get to, we don't know what's in area 19 yet, but then you're only a couple of rooms. You are really close to the exit. If I'm reading what the exit is, you were really close to the exit. So it makes sense that it would be dangerous. That's a good trade-off. It seems like I would probably want to put that, hey, it's something that's apparently dangerous, so that they know they're, you can narrate, okay, the wall is kind of crumbly, even just as you sort of step foot in there, you can just, every little tremor of all the robots moving through is sending little bits of powder or, clumps of dirt, rocks down, whatever, from the ceiling. It has not been well hollowed. The front, middle, back of the tunnel, you really kind of need to have, and maybe it's something where I want to note also, or you just have to keep in mind that you want to definitely make sure you have your order of travel, or your marching order, whatever you want to call it. Because basically, is it collapsing in the front? Who's in front? The middle? Who's in the middle? Who's in the back? That sort of thing. Maybe you'd say it's narrow enough that even if the party was clumped together, to let them know, hey, tell me how you're going into this tunnel, because stuff might happen. Brian Smith says, telegraphing danger, you might say? Yes, telegraphing danger, not a bad thing, especially something like this, which, has every reason to be pretty obviously dangerous. So we're now kind of, if we were rewinding, so we didn't come into the mushroom cave, we kind of went from that initial area after we exited our cells, and we did take that western path. We get into area 5, the mining cavern. Another circular rooms actively being delved out. There are 2 miner robots. Miner, as in they mine stuff, not minor, as in MANOR, as in other kids or small, insignificant characters. I don't know if I would change that to mining bots. Just, it's one of those things that wouldn't even matter at all when you're reading it, but as I'm saying it, suddenly that, hey, we're playing as kids who are miners, and now we have miner bots. That I feel the need, or I feel the desire to want to clarify what kind of bot we're talking about here. We got two of those mining bots. Characters can attempt to do some sneaking if they want to. There are 2 passages here. One going southwest, one going southeast. If they do go, well, they call it south, which is what I was calling southwest. But I guess it could just be, I guess it's, if I look at the, I guess it is just south, looking at the, how the, whatever the isometric nature of the map. Very tight tunnel, and we can always, seems like there's always, you can always look under rocks. So I guess every room, look under rocks, because there's stuff there. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be, I guess they're just rocks around, because I'm looking in the white text. It doesn't say, hey, there's bunches of rocks here. It just says it's a circular room, it's actively being delved out, and I guess the assumption is that, which makes total sense, you're mining out the room, so yeah, of course, there's rocks that you are dislodging, and they're just all around. But it's one of those things that hopefully, if you're the players, you pick up on this to look under rocks if you have time, because there's all kinds of stuff under the rocks if you look around. Oh, Brian Smith says drill droids. I like that. Or drilloids. Drilloids. Drill bots. Yeah, I think that's one thing, right? Minor bots, it's okay. But I feel like you could up your game with coming up with a really goofy kind of 80s. What would the He-Man enemy that was there a He-Man enemy that was like had a drills for a head or arms or something, lived underground? What would he be called or she be called? What would their minions be called? I feel like there's some kind of name you could find there that's a little bit more fun. Minor bots feels too ordinary, too mundane. So if we went eastward, we would end up in this large mining cavern. More stuff. We get another episode of Sorcerer TV. We do see a robo drone fighting two kids. And as we watch, the robo drone captures the kids. And then a minor bot takes the kids and flies off. The robo drone remains. So we get to see that fight, which it's pretty good. I mean, there's chances are maybe your party tries to interrupt it, but if they don't, then they get to see essentially what losing a fight looks like. They get to kind of see, you're telegraphing the danger of these things. I almost would like that to be earlier on, just because you get to they get a chance to witness what these bots can do a bit before they encounter them. So I almost would think, and it would make sense that there were multiple cells in your 1A area, and then in that room 2, that's what you saw first. I think I would kind of like that better, just so that this is a new setting. It's a new thing. This is a funnel, presumably for players who've never played Barbarians of the Ruined Earth. So all this might be kind of new to them. Being able to see these two different kinds of these robots in action, what they do, what really it gives you a sense of what are the consequences of failure. Oh, we're going to get netted, captured, dragged away. And I think we can intuit that once we're in that sort of electro netting, is probably not a way out. Like, you're stuck. So it gives you a good sense of, okay, laser beam eyes, check. Now we know what they do, how they can attack you, and okay, check. This is what's going to happen if we lose these fights. So we don't want to. So I might actually push that encounter, maybe swap it with just the minor bot in area 2. Kind of give it a little more, a little more data to your players, because all this stuff is new. It's not like, D&D. I think everybody has a good sense about obviously using swords and things, and you see goblins and orcs, and you have a pretty good idea of what they do. These kind of robots could be very new to people. So I think giving them that sort of, here's what they can do, we're like, okay, because you might not know. I could easily see the first time you play this, people really not knowing what these robots' capabilities are. So that's a way for you to show them and then let them loose. Oh, so after the fight, let's see, one of the captured kids drops a nice harmonica. Okay, I guess that's something, a little prize. maybe a token. What do they have there? They had tokens or something. It could be someone's token. We get some archways. We get some more Sorcerer TV. Brian Smith says Frackborgs. I'm down with the Frackborg. Your minerals will be assimilated. Is that the Frackborg? Did they tell the rocks that their resistance is futile? We have a mine shaft room. Oh, we've kind of okay, so this is if we had gone south from the mushroom room. We end up in the mine shaft room, which has a large hole in the floor. We've got some mining bots that are starting to dig out a lower level. There's a metal crane above the hole, and there's a door south that leads to an area that you can also access from another door from the area we were just in, the one with the mining bot with the kids. We have this Terrors of the Darkness note. PCs can make a roll if they know the history to see if they know the history of the project. If they succeed on this, they know that the hole was dug, and after the hole was dug, a few of the slaves and a robo-drone were sent to investigate, and none have returned. But whether they know or not, something's going to come out of that hole, and it could be one of a couple of things. It could be a man-bat creature, could be a mole beast man, could be a blast of hot, sticky, disgusting air, could be the sounds of a young child echoing from the hole. Help! Help me! The pale face of a child can be seen through the darkness. Oh my gosh, yuck. This is actually a pustule feeder. Can wear the face of the last victim it consumed. Ooh, boy, that's super creepy. Almost, I mean, it's really cool from just disgusting eldritch horror kind of thing. It almost feels like a little bit out of place given the sort of more Saturday morning cartoon feel for what's going on. But now, obviously, I see the illustration that matches up from the map. Super gross. It definitely has that Miyazaki. What was it, like the nothing or the no nothing or the no or whatever the thing is from what's that Spirited Away? And that thing had a pretty dark part to it, but boy, that's pretty grim. The pustule feeder has no interest in fighting. It will attempt to snatch a child and return to the darkness. If harassed, it will climb up the rope, takes it around and attack. Probably want to leave that thing alone. Mike Smith says, quote, treat the mole men as a level 0 teenager. That's relatable. It is. It is indeed. Well, that's a really cool, kind of creepy, interesting added moment. Okay, from area, let's see. All right, so now, this is the thing where the numbering of the maps, or I guess it's not even really the numbering of the maps, it's trying to read these things through map number order. I'm trying to, and I'm probably failing spectacularly at trying to reset where things are on the map with these rooms because you end up jumping. So we were just in room 7, which was south of the mushroom room. Now we jumped to room 8, which is nowhere near where room 7 is, and it's not its fault, but we're now back to if we went from that room that had the couple of mining bots in there, and we went into another. We kept going south. We end up in the fetid water room. On the map, it does have some brownish muck in it, which I guess is the fetid water. And we can see that there's the ledge here. It doesn't really. I wouldn't say that on the map it doesn't look like a ledge, but it doesn't matter so much. It's just giving us a general idea. It is slippery, so you could fall in. Get a couple of tests. And you can decide if you're going to move on the ledge quickly or slowly. If you move quickly, you got to make a dex test with disadvantage. There's a toxic hipposludgeopus in there. And if you fall in, you awake it. So we don't want to awake it. You do get 2 shots at avoiding falling in the water. If you go slowly, you don't have disadvantage on the test. And you're still given a second chance if you failed your first chance. But it takes 4 rounds to get through. 2 rounds if you go quickly, 4 rounds if you go slowly. And then each round you're moving, there's a chance for an encounter. And this would make a really good encounter space because you got the slippery ledge, you've got that, whatever that, the toxic hippo sludge opus in there. You could have some fun with what if the kids, maybe they see something moving in the muck. What if they get the mining bots in position and then deliberately wake that toxic hippo sludge opus to help them escape? Could be some interesting moves, and maybe the hippo sludge opus won't be interested in the mining bots, much like that thing in Empire Strikes Back when Luke goes to Yoda and it's in the swamp. It doesn't care for R2-D2, so it just spits it out again. Old Team Patrol says Hippo Sludge Opus could make a good band name. Might be a little too hard to say. Might have a lot of stumbling tongues with that name, but I could definitely see it as that there was some metal 80s band that was some song. Oh, I missed this. Cranberry Coyote says, "You're not my real mole dad, Mark," and sulks off. Angsty Moleman, man, that's a lost opportunity, a missed opportunity here. Definitely, if you're running this, please factor in that the mole people are all angsty teens with overworked parents. Brian Smith says, "I like how these rooms are basically just one thing with one mechanic. Seems like whether the drill bots are hot on your heels or not is really what flavors the scene." Yeah, I think they're not giving you a ton to work with. It's presenting you with individual problems. They're not all the same kind of problems. A lot of the problems are solvable. We haven't run across a problem yet that, hey, you just must fight. You know, it's very much really depend on how you got there. Yeah, are you running for something else and you just have to sprint through the room? Then yeah, you're gonna have more stuff on your tails, and then you get to these kind of rooms that slowly, it's almost well placed, because to get to this room, if you go the way presumably you're supposed to, you've had to go basically past a number of those drill bots. So if you did fail to sneak, you might have 2, 3, 4 drill bots on your tail, and now you get to this room, and now you have this choice of go fast or slow. If you have all those drill bots on your tail, you may not be able to afford to go slow, and that puts extra tension to go fast. If you have been sneaking around, you have extra reason to go slow because you don't want the sound to carry into those other rooms and potentially put those drill bots on your attention. And that's a nice thing also about having those enemies marked on the map, is me as the dungeon master or the referee or whatever they're calling them in this book, I can see that they're in this area, and I can see these notations for the illustration saying, okay, there's at least one drill bot in each of the rooms that borders this area. So if they do splash and summon the Hippo Sludge Opus, I could also roll to see if I want to be that maybe meaner. If I feel like, oh yeah, maybe they're hearing all this stuff. What are these still active? Okay, what's their kind of alert status? Yep, good stuff. Hippo Sludge Opus is my favorite Parliament album, says Cranberry Coyotes. Definitely. Oh, Cranberry Coyotes, it's Terrence in disguise. All right, well done, Terrence. You snuck past. I don't know what happened with your other account, Terrence. The Mysteries of Nightbot. Maybe it's Nightbot. I'm not sure if it's Restream that did something. I'm not sure if I clicked a button. I'll have to go see afterwards if I clicked some kind of thing. Obviously, other people besides me could see your comments, which is good. It just hidden from me. So it didn't block you. It just hid you. Not sure why. We'll have to discuss. Nightbot has captured it. Absolutely. The central offices, area 9. So this is kind of it's interesting called a central office because it is basically a bit of a central room. You can get there from the room that had the Nightbot. Nightbot. If I were ever to run this, I would definitely add Nightbot into the mix somewhere. Nightbot would be the true big bad evil guy of all the bots in this adventure. The room where the kids were captured, you could see the kids fighting the whatever the other bot was called. It wasn't the mining bot, it was the drone bot. You can get there from here, you can get there from that room with the hole in it with that gross pustule feeder also leads to this room, which we are now can see is the central office. There is a little bookshelf here. It looks like there's a cell here too. There's one small room that comes off of here. Could be a closet, could be a little area. And then you can also go continuing eastward from this room. And we've got some doors. If you search there's a desk. If you search the desk, we can find some stuff. There's a vial of acid on the bookshelf. There's a hidden door in the desk that has a ring in it. The ring has a ritual spell of teleportation. Transport a person 500 feet away in any direction and disintegrates when used. So it can 500 feet. I'm still not sure if these are 10. No one said whether these are 10 or 5 foot squares anywhere. 500 feet will get you pretty far. I mean, that probably, I would say, could probably get somebody out if one would allow them out. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure exactly which way is out, or there might be two ways, because there's definitely two areas. One is area 16, that's in the very south, that looks like it might lead out, and there's also area 23. There could be two ways out. I don't know. We shall see. 9A. Uh-oh. The cartographer strikes again. There is no 9A on the map, but I can tell pretty much that's got to be that cell. Yeah, so it's marked on the map with the gates to it, but no actual 9A. So a little omission there. But this one's a lot easier to parse because there's clearly an area that, okay, it hasn't been marked, but I can see the note, the illustration of the barred gate or bars, so I can say, okay, there's a cell here. So that one's not quite as perplexing as the lack of 1C. There are two kids in there. They're both servants of Overseer Glog, and they will join the players if you need be. So you can get your first taste of some hirelings. You can, if you spring the kids, and the key is in the desk. And that other area is area, which is marked as area 10, which looks like it's a little room off. This office is the Overseer Glog's chamber. Smells of stale sweat and cheap hooch. There's a bed here. Wooden table. There's a nightstand. Got a whistle and a flask in the drawer, and there's a secret button in the nightstand. If you press it, we find a strange metal glove held together with patches of leather and thick stitching. There are 4 large batteries on the backside of the glove with wires leading away from them and plugging into the index and pinky fingers. It appears that Overseer Glog has been dabbling into stupendous science. This glove delivers a super punch, increased physical damage by 1 type. In the case of the PC children, you go from a D4 to a D6. After each successful attack, the wearer must make a luck roll. If it does not favor them, the glove short circuits and explodes, dealing 1d4 damage. So cool, you get like one of those Hulk toy gloves that you can pound people with, but it might explode. That's Glog's area, but Glog apparently is not there. Oh, we got our first taste of mind carts. Area 11 is the minecart converging area. Brian Smith says he has a power glove. Yes, I believe. Yeah, that's the other thing. I suppose maybe it's as fitting if it were a Nintendo Power Glove kind of thing. Except Nintendo Power Gloves, did they ever explode? He's merged a Power Glove with a Pinto to create a potentially exploding Power Glove. So we have this minecart track converging line. 2 train cars are here. 1 car on each track. Tunnels lead east and south. There's a small control box on a pole where the rail lines end. We have to roll for an event once we get here. The control box has some colorful buttons on it. Pressing different buttons controls the tracks that lead into other parts of the mine. Black recalls a car. So we got some tracks. We can see where they lead to. We haven't gotten to Area 12 yet, so it remains to be seen if there is an actual Rhino Man riding a minecart, or it's just there to illustrate that this is a minecart track. Brian Smith says, if you used a power glove long enough, probably bet they would. Could be. All right, so now we get our first taste of the mine cars. We can press some buttons. We can send cars to different places, or bring them back. Is it clear which buttons lead where? I mean, from the player's perspective. So here we know red's going to lead up to you press red and it's going to take the cart up to area 20, which obviously we don't know yet. I mean, I can see it on the map, but I can't show you there. Blue. So basically red takes it all the way to the northernmost area. Blue takes it kind of north. It's going to swing. It's going to make kind of a U-turn from where you are in this room. East, then north, then a little bit back west. Green says 13C. Takes you kind of east. And then orange takes you sort of southeast. And then black is recall. But I wondered, are there labels on these buttons, or is it supposed to be mystery? Is it supposed to be a mystery? I want to play it as a mystery. Might be kind of fun. You have to do some experimenting, take your chances. This would be something that if they wanted to, it might be nice. We haven't gotten to the areas yet, so it's kind of not super fair. But I wonder if when we get to the areas where these minecarts go, if they're color-coded in some way. So, for example, if we had gone a different way, we might have seen, okay, here in area 18, we could see that it's got a blue marker or something, a rough splash of blue paint, something that might indicate, okay, this is where it's going. I do notice it says green goes to 13C. There is a splash of green on the map at 13, but there's no 13C on the map. So, Cranberry. Oh yeah, Terrence. Good point, Terrence. Would Wasteland kids be able to read anyway? That's a good point. They might not be able to. We've got another 11A and 11B that aren't marked. But they're cage doors with kids. We can see the cages not marked. I don't know why they didn't mark these A and B if they weren't going to put them on the map. Otherwise, just have it just be part of the main description. It's a weird choice. I have to think it must be a choice because it seems to be, other than the inconsistency with having 1A, 1B, and no 1C, it seems to be fairly consistent in these rooms, and they have these little multiple parts that they're calling like they have labels, but the labels aren't actually there. Brian Smith, cartographer hit the cheap hooch during this one. I don't know. I have to feel like it must be intentional. If I get a chance to ask, I will, because it just seems, it's not even like a hard detail. Okay, here's 11 on the map. Where's 11A and B? There isn't. I mean, it's not hard to notice it's missing. So I just have to think, unless maybe there's another map in here. Because I think that was one thing. What was I looking at? I forget. Which they had kind of two maps. And at first I was looking at the player map that didn't have the labels. And I was going batty trying to find the labels. And I was like, oh, there's the DM version that's got the labels on it. But this one is clearly the map with the labels. And there isn't not another map. So I don't know, but it seems too consistent other than that first bit to not feel like it was a choice not to either just put an A or B by there or 11A and 11B. But we do get a random encounter in the slave pens. They actually have 3 slave pens here, but the map only kind of shows like there's 2. But maybe it's just a generic slave area, and I shouldn't be looking at it that trying to be that specific. All right, we got a mine tunnel Here's where this is the mine tunnel that if there is a rhino person on a minecart, this would be where it is. You can walk through the tunnel. If you do, you get an event. If you're traveling on a minecart through the tunnel, they have to make a luck roll. If they get their roll, if they make their roll, no, there's no interruption. If they don't make their roll, then there's a minecart coming from the opposite way, and then you have to try to jump out to avoid harm. And if you fail that, you get 1d3 damage as the cars slam together, and then you double damage if a character fumbles. So there's no specific Rhino Man in a minecart, Rhino person in a minecart event, but you could possibly have a minecart coming the other way. They don't mention what they don't mention what, if anything, might be in the other minecart. It would be nice to have like a random minecart thing. Like at any given moment, some bot and some kids who are on actual official business for Vindicus are in the other cart or just in a cart traveling around. Oh, good point there. Brian Smith says, love the Donkey Kong Country vibes. Those minecart levels were so good. Yeah, it does have that vibe a bit. I can see that. CC Absolutamente C. We have a central processing facility. This is a big area. It's got some children and drones are everywhere. It's chaos. Screams of Overseer Glog. You filthy, naughty children! Glog will make you sorry for your rudeness. Yes, he will. Maybe I should have given him not such a high-pitched voice. Glog is an overweight human male who has very porky features, a sweaty stained shirt, and is holding a whip in one hand and a stun blaster in the other. We have ore crushers, a couple of ore crushers. I don't think we've seen ore crushers before. We get some more Sorcerer TV. And there's a note here that you can overflow the smelters. There's a lever by each ore crusher. These levers can be pulled to cause the contents of the ore crushers to rush into the smelters. Contents cause the smelters to overflow, spilling molten hot metal all over the ground. See map for area 13E, highlighted area showing spill radius. Any target in the area is immediately killed. So that's the one thing. If you are to overload the smelters, you can kill somebody. That's a very cool environmental, I don't even say hazard, tool feature. I like it. See map for area 13E. Highlighted area shows spilling radius. I don't see a particular... Is there a particular map for 13E? Because the big map does have a green kind of thing, which might look like the spill radius. But it doesn't seem very big, and it seems in a weird spot. I'm just gonna go through just to see if there are any closer maps. Nope, I'm not seeing one. I don't know what the intention is, if there's supposed to be another map there or not. But I'm not seeing it. But anyway, you can overflow the smelters. You probably don't even need the highlighted area. You could just probably roll some dice and figure out how many people might get bit or where it should be. But there is... I'll just switch to my... Let me switch to myself for a minute. On the main map, let's see, we could see there's area 13. Notice there's no A, B, C, D, E, but we do have Whipman, and we do have the kids, and we do have this green indicator, which might be the spill area, though it's kind of a little bit weird, because if those, maybe just overthinking it, but if you look at where those machines, where the smelters, we see the paths of the conveyor belts, look like they're moving in the opposite direction. So if you hit the levers and overflow the smelting stuff, I'm not sure why the spill would be where it is, if that green thing on the map is the spill. Because it seems like it would kind of spew out from the machine. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I mean, it's not a hard thing to edit, but it's a weird to me, it's just a little bit weird if we're supposed to take those things make spatial decisions based on, okay, where this stuff is, then it makes no sense that that's there. And that's why I thought maybe it was green, because that's on the green line, but maybe not. Brian Smith says, sounds like a cleanup job for the Brawny Man. Oh, that would have been great. Another kind of 80s-ish. I guess the Brawny guy is still around, right? It's not particularly 80s, but yes. Totally a job for Brawny. Maybe there could have been a Brawny bot. Maybe there is a Brawny bot. Who's to say? Good, nice illustration. There is Glog. I like the child with the pot for a helmet, with the sword swinging from a rope from somewhere, coming in for the killing blow, it looks like. That girl's got some magic, and she's kind of looks like one of the Bangles, and looks like she's got firing spells in both hands. As with the main rulebook, really nice illustrations. Ryan Smith says, what do you want, a random smelting machine spew direction table? Yes. Yes, I would. I would like a random smelting machine spew direction table. Absolutely. Okay, maybe not exactly that. It does bring up something with just cartography in general, because it seems like this map is maybe torn a little bit between trying to be illustrative in a thematic way and being spatially accurate. And maybe it's trying to do a little bit too much of both. Like choose whether these are supposed to be real spatial positions or whether you're just giving us kind of an idea what's in the room. Because at first I was taking it to, oh, these are kind of just ideas of what's in the room, not these things must specifically be there. And for the most part, it pretty much works that way. It doesn't need to be. We don't need to think that, oh, okay, this thing is exactly in those 4 squares in that 6 square room. No, it's just, okay, this thing is in the room. But then you get to this room like 13, and here they're kind of saying, no, it's pretty much exactly the way things are in the room because we're using this radius, whatever, which makes me think, like, look at it differently. And once I started looking at it like that, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. So, it's one of the things to just choose. Ovaltine Patrol says, yeah, just use a D8. Right, yes. That would have been preferable. Use a D8, say how many, say a D8, and then if it hits, whatever. Or, you could just say, there, I don't know, something. Because we're not really playing spatially. Or maybe we're playing Theater Minds, so we might roll. You could really roll have a D10 and say it centers on either a kid, a drone, a glog, and then X amount of people around them. And then you could figure out if the PCs were next to anybody. Something like that. It just ends up being in a weird spot where you take something and you're treating it like, okay, it's just kind of giving me this general pictorial sense of what's around to now we want you to take it spatially seriously. But then I wonder, okay, well then why not put the stones to mark that passages are blocked because they're blocked in the text, but they're not on the map. And you just get in this weird space of, okay, if it's supposed to be spatially accurate, then why isn't it spatially accurate in other places? It's just, it's just one of those decisions that's interesting. Maybe you end up just trying to please 2 masters, where I'd rather they would pick, or just put an extra little map of this area that is spatially accurate if you need it to be. Maybe Brian Smith says, maybe a difference between the illustrator and the writer. The map seems very evocative and the writing is a bit more granular. I dig both. Yeah, I do. It's just, it's more like when you get these weird overlaps where they're trying to please both of them. Like, just let that map just be evocative if you wanted to, and then have a tactical map if you need it, or write out, okay, here's what's going on, and do that. Or have the map be granular and do that, right? Or have a couple of maps. Have a little map of that room when you need it to. I'm nitpicking though, right? It's not at all a big deal, but I wonder if you're a new GM and you look at that and you're like, I don't know, you're trying to call this out to the players and stuff. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because if you're a player and you're trying to be like, okay, someone says, hey, the machines are starting to go wonky, and you go, all right, well, I step way back to the far side of those conveyor belts, and you think like, yeah, I'm great. And then GM looks down the map and says, well, that's exactly where the spill goes. It just feels a little bit like, how did I get into the spill kill zone when it seems like the safest part of the room almost to where the stuff's happening. It's just a disconnect. And you can fix it easily, but if you notice it, why go through that? Overseer Glog, we have some blue box text, which I think is the first time we've seen blue box text. And I appreciate folks hanging around. I know we're going a little bit long, but I'd like to try to get through this in one go, and I've got the time to do it, so let's try to do it. This is the boss fight of the adventure and can be completely ignored by the characters should they choose to do so. PCs can hide behind the ore crushers and the smelters, attempting to avoid Overseer Glog's gaze. Overseer Glog is busy whipping 2 children at his feet and shooting at targets in the distance with his stun blaster. Overseer Glog hates being made fun of and will fly into a stupid rage should a player come up with a good insult directed at him, meaning targets gain advantage on rolls against him. The effect lasts 1d4 rounds. PCs can use insults or other distractions to lure Overseer Glog toward the smelters, so he would be caught in the molten flood when the ore crushers are emptied. Glog makes 2 attacks per round and starts with robo drones with him. Maybe I've got that wrong. You know what? Maybe now that I've read that, I wonder if I'm seeing that map wrong, and it really should be that the instead of the, I think that's what it is. I think I have to do a mea culpa on that. I'm thinking maybe, it still doesn't make a ton of sense, but maybe it looks like I was looking at the conveyor belts are conveying stuff to the boxes, but maybe it's conveying stuff from the boxes, and then the spray makes more sense. Because, it's still kind of like, it doesn't totally make sense, but maybe it is that the molten stuff comes down from the boxes. Here, let me do this again. So this is, I guess, maybe the way you're supposed to make sense of it. Doesn't totally make sense, but maybe it makes more sense. You guys can tell me if you feel like I'm right or wrong on this. That maybe the conveyor belts, I was thinking they were feeding stuff into those boxes, but maybe the conveyor belts are feeding stuff out of the boxes. So now when the molten stuff comes out, the molten stuff runs down the conveyor belts and then spills in that pool. Again, it doesn't really make sense because if stuff is spraying out of those machines, it would be more of like some kind of cone or thing than a pool. But maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe because there are mine carts everywhere, so it's hard to tell. But it looks like if we look at this, maybe the way it's supposed to be is that the things are supposed to then feed into the mine carts that coming past it. So I might have had that backwards, but again, this is one of those things that why you want to be really clear, because here I am confused by it. I'm still a little bit confused by it just in terms of it absolutely being clear. But that to me is a bit more sensical that, okay, the conveyor belts are running from those boxes, going to feed out into some mining carts, right? If I imagine those things are now spewing out molten liquid, do I feel like the molten liquid is running perfectly down the conveyor belts and then kind of pooling off to the thing? No, that still doesn't really read. As a PC or as a GM, I would not be thinking that's what would happen if I thought the machines were now just spewing molten metal, but maybe that's the more way to read it. This is why hey, write down, here's how these things work. Conveyor belts are going, maybe they did and I missed it, but I would say, okay, just be absolutely clear, because it's kind of if we're going to do that, it's sort of a big tactical moment, right? So make it super clear. But it might have been me misreading it, but I think in terms of just if you're running this, I think it's a fairly easy thing to misread. But it's also very small because the PCs have to think about overloading them, right? So this is not something that's going to occur. A lot of players might roll through this and never do it. You could probably, really, you could end up running this and not have any issues, and totally, if you made the mistake that I did, run it with that mistake, and you still wouldn't make much of a difference. So that's the cool part. It's either I'm just wrong, which is totally possible, or it's a little bit confusingly written, but it's kind of like a side thing of a side thing. So it's not super important. It's good that this is not something we're encountering in a very key situation. Brian Simmons says, role-playing Glog seems very fun. Absolutely. Could be a lot of fun. And it gives you some fun things to do. If the players realize that he's very thin-skinned and they can insult him, then that is also some fun stuff. Well, we do have a note on Overseer Glog. In several playtests, the group came up with super fun and exciting ways to kill Glog, and they took great satisfaction in that. One such example was setting the car into 13C to get Glog's attention. He started running at the children, screaming, "Naughty, naughty!" while they peppered him with rocks. One of the characters pressed the recall button to see if the car would hit Glog on the way back, and indeed it did. This made it an quote-unquote easier fight, but damned if it wasn't fun. Yeah, the mine cars, you could definitely see people, and this is where I think you really want to let the players have a ton of fun with those mine cars if they figure out how to control them. Let them set up some kind of traps. Let them get drones or Glog onto the tracks of the cars. We know from earlier on, and this is where it would be nice if there was kind of a global note on how the mine cars illustrate, because we kind of got to go back to that other room. And depending on how you play through it, you might have skipped that room that says, hey, if you're in, basically, if you get hit by the car, it was the oncoming collision, but we can kind of use that as a guide. Or that's why it'd also be nice to have a global thing of here's what happens. If you get hit by a minecart, it does 1d4 damage, 1d6 damage, whatever. Dive out of the way, this, that, the other. Then we have that mechanic, because it definitely seems like it could be a lot of fun. Especially if you, say, have somebody who were able to hit him with the cart and you've overloaded those smelters so that he ends up landing in an area. You could even kind of box them in a little bit, and then here comes all this molten stuff to hit him and kill him. You could really have some fun stuff. Seems like it's an excellent encounter. Oh, and I'm still maximized. So let's bring back up the module. All right, so the supply room, 13C, not marked on the map. Kind of get a gist of where it is. Because there's one, it's not given walls, which I guess because of the isometric approach, you can't really give it walls. But we see it's got a door. It's got some kind of drone in front of it. I'm guessing a mining drone, and it's got a bookshelf on the inside. Excuse me. It doesn't really say, it doesn't, so the map, it doesn't really look like that's where the tracks end, but I guess that's where the tracks end. But it is, okay, so I have the right room on the map. And there's another control box that controls the rail lines here. So it's another area where you can start fiddle-faddling with the mining carts. We have a bridge room, which is if you go south on the mining track, or walk along the mining track, you get to a bridge area. There's a mining bot here that crashed into a wall, now lies in a heap. We do roll for an event here, and you can loot the mining bot. We have the actual bridge crossing. We do roll for another event, and there is a damaged robo drone that's on the bridge. We have some dangers of crossing the bridge. It looks like there are vines. You can swing on vines. I see this. So the illustration of the bridge shows vines kind of running underneath. You can use those vines to try to get across. Oh, Brian Sue says, knock him onto the conveyor belt, get him into the ore crusher. That's a good idea for dealing with Glog. Absolutely. If you use the vines and you have to make a luck check and you don't make the luck check, some possible things could happen. One of them is presumably you could fall into darkness, but you do get a second save against that. And then area, if you do get past the bridge, you end up in an antechamber tunnel. More sorcerer TV action. There's some stuff under rocks here, and then you can exit from over there, but you do get another event as you're hitting that exit. If you end up going north from that main area, you could end up in a freshwater room. There is something in the water, a trinket. Let's see, you can go for... Oh, I see. So one of the things you can do is you can get in this water area and then swim basically through to a room that you can get to by walking, but in this case you can kind of cut that because it's got more water in the other rooms. There's some kind of underground water passage between these two rooms. Takes 8 rounds, but you don't really need to mark the time. It's just to give you a reference, but it doesn't actually factor in anything in the swimming itself. And you have to make another luck check, and you could either get damaged or potentially get turned around. You get there. Get to the other side. There's a cargo room. More Sorcerer TV, more stuff you can possibly salvage. 2 mine cars that have been thrown against the rails. 2 badly damaged Robo Guardian. And you can potentially fight the Robo Guardian, or it might notice you, but it might not. Where's Area 19? Oh, Area 9. Okay, I see. Area 19, that's the robot repair room. That's where you could, if you found the secret passage from the mushroom room, this is where you get kicked out into. The robot repair room. There are some events you can roll for. There is some stuff you can find in the Rex, and there's that hidden passage that leads to the mushroom room. We have a mining cavern. That's just the end of one of the tracks. More Sorcerer's TV. There's some more rubble and stuff. There's an overturned cart. We get another mining chamber. Here we get into the area that you could have swum from the other room with the fresh water, but otherwise you can get there just through some tunnels. It's got similar swimming things you can do if you wanted to go the other way. And there is a trinket in the water. I'm not sure. I guess is it the same trinket or is it a different trinket? Doesn't say. So presumably maybe there's 2 trinkets, one on each side. And then you get the exit tunnel with some more Sorcerer TV. So 2 different exits. Bada bing, bada boom, you're out. Get some baddies. We have a Beetle Leech Swarm. That is child size. We have a Man Bat that's larger than a child. We've got a Miner Bot. Oh, someone's given the Miner Bot a little Macho Man Randy Savage elbow action. The Miner Bots. Oh, the mining bots are child sized. They are down at your level. There's the Mushroom Parasite. We got Overseer Glog. That's a really good comic book style illustration with his not Thanos, not Nintendo Power Glove. He's got a whip and a stun blaster. We see the Pustule Feeder that looks. It definitely has that. What was it? The no or the none or the none nothing, whatever it is from Spirited Away vibe to it. Just it has a kid's face instead of that just white mask kind of face that it had. Very creepy. Got some Robo Drones. Got some Robo Guardians. We got a Robo Warrior. We got the Toxic Hippo Sludge Opus. So it's got like a hippo's head, some octopus stuff. Pretty gross. We got a new monster rule for a swarm. Small creatures, insects, snakes, lizards, rats, crows, etc., can form a swarm that can easily overwhelm their opponent through sheer numbers. A swarm has 1 pool of hit points, initiative, armor, and damage instead of each creature having their own. Swarms are immune to any effect that affects an individual target and critical hits. Due to the sheer number of creatures in a swarm, anywhere between 100 and 2,000, all attacks against them are made with disadvantage. Swarms take half damage from all sources, save area effect damage, and bludgeoning weapons. Swarms do not roll damage. Instead, they deal a set amount of damage per round to all targets in their area. No defense test allowed. Some swarms have special abilities in conjunction to their damage: poison, fire, damage, disease, webbing, etc. And they have some examples of swarms. Yeah, that's decent. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I feel like that's pretty much standard swarm rules that you see in different editions. Something, if not exactly that, then very similar to that. Ovaltine Patrol says, no face. Thank you. I could not remember. I knew it was no something. Okay, if you escape, what now? Tell the players time will be moving forward and that they are roughly 18 to 20 years of age, or whatever the GM wants, and they can choose one of their surviving characters to roll up to first level, following the standard character creation rules in the main rulebook. The characters that aren't leveled up can be used as NPCs in the village, hirelings, etc. Tell the players where they are starting out and give them as much info as desired about the village and what is currently going on in the area. Have each player roll on the bonds table and create a quick story about an event that has happened to them and another player over the course of time since escaping the mines. That's interesting because I would have thought that the mine escape itself would be the bond. I might just skip this part because if we're going through all this thing and doing the funnel, then I feel like the bonds you've made, the bonds that you have is that adventure we just played through. But sure, if you want to reinforce it, you could add another bond. We have a note. When playtesting this adventure, I started the group in the Western Sands adventure location in Barbarians. I created a small village up in the northeastern corner and threw out some immediate problems / hooks for them to discover, and we went right from there. Your standard, excellent sandbox kind of beginnings. And then we have some different sorcerer TVs depending on how often you've been hitting them. So the first time you get the Sorcerer's TV, we get one thing. Then when the second time you see one, then third, fourth, and fifth. Which is the fifth is so it's kind of like it's kind of cool because it's basically a little. You get to see these little snippets of what's happening in those heroes who caused the disruption that allowed you to escape. You're getting kind of a running commentary from Vindicus to what's happening over there until finally you hear the battle shout of the Barbarian the fifth time, and then presumably. Yeah, it says the screen pixelates, goes to static, and then powers down. So yeah, that's funny. So that's cool. So you get these little tidbits of what's happening on the adventure that you're not a part of, which is kind of the main adventure, but it's just not your thing, right? Of Vindicus under attack. You get these little updates on what's happening. That's really good. And we have events, so you can get a nothing event, but it's rare. It's only a 5% chance of nothing happening. It's a 1. You're rolling a d20, and that's what you get on a 1. Some of them are just things happening. The lights flicker and go out for some rounds. Heavy footfalls. You hear basically something coming, and if you hang around, it'll come in 1d3 rounds, that kind of thing. The lights flicker, but they stay on. So a lot of this seems there's some tension. Okay, stuff's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So you have a chance to respond before it happens and either get out of dodge or come up with a plan, something like that. There's some nice atmospheric stuff on here. Cool. And there are definitely some that would probably turn into encounters, but maybe don't have to. We have some inspiration given here. Thundar, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, and then Saturday morning cartoons. They list Pirates of the Dark Water, Scooby-Doo, etc. And then we get our open game license. We get some, hey, you can go to their website, get some cool stuff. And there's the back of the book. Brian Smith says, there it is, a minor bot. Yep. Or a major minor bot. It's like airplane. Captain, over, under. Roger, over. Captain, under. Underdone. Cool. So this is a fun adventure. As usual, I haven't played it. I've only read it. Other than the stuff with that, with again, I have to think it's a choice that was made deliberately to not have the ABCs and just mention them, but not have them listed. Though maybe it isn't, because I don't know why I would mention them as ABCs if I'm not referencing the map, because that's the only purpose giving those designations has is being on the map, but they're not on the map. So something happened with that. I'll have to try to get, maybe I'll see if I can get Mr. Evans on for a chat, and maybe I'll ask him about it if it was something that was just unintentional and just oops, and if there's another printing, they'll have those fixed, or whether it was something. But other than that, it's really well put together. I like the way the boxed text and stuff flows. I might say it'd be nice to have the color and some kind of icon, because I think that if I was going away from it, and even as I'm going through it, I had to kind of remember, oh yeah, yellow is this, the other color is this, orange is this. And if it had the color and an icon, I feel like that double reinforcement would just make it super easy, but it's not really a downside. It's just if I had my druthers, maybe that's how I would have it. But yeah, there's a lot of fun. I don't think it's not said whether this is supposed to be a new adventure for new GMs. I think it does make an excellent intro to the setting and the game for new players. It's definitely not complicated. I think if you're a new GM and this is your first RPG, could you play this with some new players? I think absolutely you could. Page references are given out for everything. If you have to reference the rulebook, it gives you page page references for the main rulebook if you need it, and if you need to reference stuff other places in the adventure from the page that you're on, they give you page references for that. All good stuff. Other than some of the quibbles I ran into with the map is very well done. I would like to know the scale, and no scale is put on. I think that's maybe one thing that me as someone who just, one of the first things I want to do is I want to read out to the players the size of the room as they see it. And there are no scales given in the descriptions, and there are no scales given on the map. I guess it's just up to me to choose what makes the most sense. Maybe I would say 10 foot squares makes the most sense, but it's one of those things that would be nice just to know. If you're a new GM, you might not know, and then you have to spend some time confused going, I'm not sure what it is. But it seems like a lot of fun. Very thematic. I think what it's trying to do, that Saturday morning Thundar the Barbarian kind of vibe to it, it definitely carries off. I actually don't get so much Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I know they're just basically pulling the mine cart chases out of it, but there isn't a mine cart sequence that really matches up with that. There's nothing like you get in the mine cart and go through a roller coaster kind of thing. It's kind of better than that in a sense, because it's a tool that once you figure it out, that, as he said with his playtesters, they use to their advantage, and it has more of a practical thing than kind of the goofy stuff that you find in not just Indiana Jones, but other movies too. What was the one? I mean, The Rock, where they go on and they have their own silly little minecart thing for no particular reason. Oh, sure, it's built on top of this. So yeah, there must be weird minecarts that just ride everywhere. I mean, in so many movies, you have the silly kind of minecarts that you have no idea how this stuff could possibly have lasted as long in the condition that it's in when they get there. Journey to the Center of the Earth, the one with the newer one with, I'm forgetting who is in it, had kind of one of those kind of mine cart things. This one, it's a lot more toned down. I mean, they probably could, if you want your super minecart silliness, you probably think, well, why didn't they just really amp up some of those minecart areas? There's only the one where the minecart goes over the bridge, but it's not really about the minecart and the bridge and it collapsing and you doing a loop-de-loop and flying through the air. That's not really what it's about. But it's really good. I think it would run well. I think you have enough choices. I think you have definitely, there are not a ton of different paths you can go by, but it's not linear, which is good. There's some interesting things. You definitely, if you think about doing things like looking under rocks and doing this and doing that, you are rewarded for doing that. And it definitely encourages you not to just get into combat with everything, because that's going to lead to a really rough time for your kid PC. So I can't say absolutely because I haven't played it, but certainly as far as reading of it, it reads really well. So I think this does exactly what it's set out to do, which is to be a great intro, and you end up with hopefully some survivors that get out, then potentially some NPCs to then sprinkle through your sandbox world to be used, or as he said, hirelings or contacts or anything once you're done. Let's see. Brian Smith says, is that rope bridge in that indie movie too? I'm not sure, but gosh, I don't even think it's really a rope bridge. It's actually, it looks like it's a regular bridge, a minecart bridge with vines hanging beneath it. It's not being held up by vines. I can tell the vines just happen to be there, I think. But yeah, I mean, in all those movies, there's at some point where the minecart has to go over some kind of super rickety, falling apart bridge that's coming apart or looks like it's about to come apart. So that's part and parcel. Though in the sense of this module, that's not really the point of that bridge area. I don't even think they really imagine, or if you can really even take the minecart over the bridge. It's more at that point, you either have to engage with the bot that's in the middle of that bridge, basically, and try to get over that way, or lure it off the bridge or destroy it from a distance and then walk across the bridge that way, or try to do the stealthy hand over hand on the vines. It's not a minecart challenge the way I'm reading it. Yep. Okay. So War Bunny verifies that yes, Indy does go over some kind of rickety bridge. I mean, they all go over rickety bridges. I would wager to say you cannot have a minecart sequence without the minecart going over some kind of rickety bridge. I think even in Harry Potter, when they go to Gringotts and they have it's not really a crazy minecart sequence, but they have doesn't he go over something? Don't they show them going over some kind of crazy bridge in the Gringotts bank cart? I mean, it's just part and parcel. Brian Smith, it seems like the designer didn't consider players wanting to bring the minecart with them on their adventures across the wastelands. That's a good point. There's no part where I think one of the things that may be overlooked is if the players could take the minecart and upend it and use it and kind of turtle themselves underneath the minecart and try to sneak out that way. They could have this thing where Glog is kind of whipping kids and looks and sees a little overturned minecart. Then he looks away and it kind of moves a bit, looks away, and you see it lift up and the little kid's feet underneath, petting him across and then dropping it down on the ground when Glog is going to look again. There should definitely be something of what can you do with how heavy is the minecart? What can you do with the minecart? I would definitely allow some latitude with, 1,000 ways to use the minecart in this adventure, because it's kind of it's the biggest feature. If you want to look at what sort of tools and things to use, the minecart's kind of the biggest one. So I would definitely, me as the GM, I would let them have a lot of fun with how can we utilize these minecarts. Maybe there's something you can look at and they're kind of plastic and they're light from some kind of, taken from some horrible off-brand amusement park that didn't have any safety regulations, so they aren't metal. They're just kind of rickety plastic that somehow survived the apocalypse. Brian Smith says, Mad Max style on a robotic minecart. Yeah. Or you could put lances on the end of them. Can you imagine if you got yourself a pole or something and put on the end and start trying to stick, charge at the bots and try to stick them from riding your minecart like it's a horse, an armored horse. Have a lot of fun. Wow. All right, folks. Well, before you leave, give a thumbs up. That would be awesome. This was The Slave Minds of Vindicus the Terrible. If you found yourself in here and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Helps me out. Doesn't really hurt you. You just can get notified. Then use that bell icon if you want to get super notified. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this look. I'm not sure what I've got going on the rest of the week. My game was supposed to be yesterday, and we had kind of said, it could be Wednesday or it could be Tuesday. We ended up being tonight. So if it holds firm, my game is tonight. So maybe that means I'll do a recap tomorrow. We shall see. I don't want to count my chickens before they've hatched. If that doesn't happen, then I'm not sure what I'll do tomorrow. And then Friday will probably be another OSR Reddit roundup. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Game on, and I'll talk to you later, everybody. Take it easy, Ovaltine Patrol.